implementation of the range of initiatives. I mean, some of the e-government plans that I've helped to draft have had hundreds and hundreds of individual initiatives spread across all of the sectors of government that the various ministries and departments have portfolios for. There has to be an examination of all of the perhaps outdated governance rules and modifying those to make sure that the implementation of e-government and m-government initiatives is enabled. I mean, another example that is kind of amusing, in a lot of former British colonies, there was something called the Stamp Act. The Stamp Act was introduced in the 1800s, and it was designed to raise revenue primarily. So if any individual wanted to do any business with government, register a deed, register a contract, they actually had to go to the post office and buy a stamp. And in order for a document to be officially recognized by the government, it had to bear that physical stamp, which somebody would buy at the post office, lick, and put on the document right over the signature. Those Stamp Acts stayed in existence well into the early 2000s in many former British colonies. And it wasn't until the advent of e-government, when somebody at a central body like an OGCIO went to individual ministries and said, "Man, what are you doing to roll out this particular service on an e-platform, either M or e-government platform, so that it will be ICT enabled?" And the minister would say, "Well, I can't do it because of the Stamp Act." So everybody hates lawyers until they need one, but this is one place where a lawyer can actually help with to facilitate the implementation of M and e-government. The goal, ultimately, for E and M government is to improve the delivery and the accessibility to all possible government services. You're limited really only by your imagination as to how ICT can be used to help enable the delivery or the management of government functions and government services. So as the OGCIO in Vanuatu has done, the process of developing and implementing and driving forward efficient and cost-effective implementation of e-government requires collaboration between government institutions. Very difficult sometimes to get two ministers to agree on anything when it's clear that in order to actually succeed, those ministers are going to have to share jurisdiction and responsibility for a particular function. So collaboration, that's the key thing. Second, another key thing is the sharing of resources. And the third thing is to ensure that the development of e-government initiatives are designed with the customer in mind. What's new about e-government and m-government is that a government is no longer a collection of separate and loosely connected institutions. Government is now an enterprise and needs to begin to include some business principles in thinking about how it's going to conduct business and fulfill its core mission of providing effective, useful, transparent services to its constituents. So that's governance for E and M government. We've talked a little bit about the building blocks for the development of a government-wide enterprise approach to establishing a vision, developing a strategy, constructing and designing specific initiatives for each of the sectors that government works in, and then proceeding to implement those initiatives. And then we've talked about the importance of collaborative decision-making supported by a clear mandate from the highest levels possible of government to actually make these things happen. Our next speaker is going to go from the 30,000 foot level, which is where I've been, to a, okay. Well, I don't know what our next speaker is going to say. We shall find out presently. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Thomas John. Very interesting presentation where you give him lote de lo afternoon. So you will harem information and me power. Vanuatu you make at one office OGCIO where he play one important role lo side blow. Dissemination of information, especially management of all information within the bodies of the government or some ministries and department. You may better manage more information, yeah, blow use some more new technologies where you make at or some electronic tools, including mobile. Now we are where you may want to reach more people, blow you miss. Was you harem? You got one goal no more, blow improve more service with government and stop delivering equal long all grassroots people. Thank you, Thomas John. But you may give him chance, equal Tony. Blow him me, or you may give him first time welcome to you, sir, this afternoon. Him named Ed Maguire. Thank you to be with us this afternoon. So the stage is yours for your presentation. Thank you. You may welcome him. One clap.
Thank you. My name is Ed Maguire, and the name of this display on Jackson to put it up on the thing, but it's called Making It Happen, Making IT Happen in Vanuatu. I guess it's coming, Jackson. Yes. Just give you a bit of background about myself. I first came to Vanuatu 12 years ago to a place I now call home. I've worked on the government's wide area network and other IT infrastructure all over the country during this time. When I first came to Vanuatu, I fell in love with the place and the people. There is something about Vanuatu that we all call home. The country has unlimited potential. I've always wanted to give something back to the people who have given me so much. So I developed the idea of eSchool. And now I'll talk about eSchool, which is a digital education solution that my company has for Vanuatu. So I started my new company, Global Pacific Telecom, this year. We specialize in digital content, digital education, and the distribution of internet. Our main telecommunications hub is in Port Vila, but the reach of our services is global, with or without a connection to the internet. Okay, so eSchool is designed to give the people of Vanuatu a chance at the education that I had the opportunity of achieving while I grew up in Australia. eSchool caters for all ages, starting at 2 years old or whenever you can look at a screen or use a tablet or use a laptop. So GPT's eSchool is a web-based system called KA Lite that is produced by an organisation called the Foundation for Learning Equality in America. Plus, we have a lot of other content such as offline Wikipedia and instructional videos on how to perform basic tasks around the house, such as cooking or fixing your car, etc., changing your oil, fixing your toilet. You can learn all that with us. eSchool works with any Wi-Fi enabled device. It enables the user to watch Khan Academy videos on a range of subjects such as mathematics, from very basic addition and subtraction up to advanced algebra and differential equations. Also on offer is chemistry, biology, physics, cosmology, and a lot more. There are videos to watch and then exercises to complete. We have implemented eSchool in a number of locations, including Big Sister in the picture up there, which is a Villa de Santo passenger ferry. passengers and staff can learn as much as they can handle all the way through the beautiful islands between here and Santo. Open Wi-Fi is available on the boat with a local server distributing the web-based content. So that's Wikipedia and all the Khan Academy videos. So there's 4,000 videos in Khan Academy covering all types of school subjects. Small technical glitch. Wait small. GPT eSchool offers unique ways of accessing our local caches at Khan Academy and Wikipedia, whether it be on the boat, on the Big Sister, or sunset drinks at the Nakamal via one of our eSchool hotspots. So we offer our eSchool hotspots to all Nakamals and community centres around Port Villa and Santo in Luganville, anywhere who can see our signal. So we've got towers up around town, and if you look down the back there and you see the big hole there with all the different antennas, that's our system there. So anywhere where we can get our signal is where we can offer a GPT eSchool hotspot. As I experienced while on a research trip to Santo, there are thousands of people who have already harnessed the technology, and I believe that GPT can help educate them so they can achieve their life goals. As you can see in the photo up the top here, these are youth from the Luganville suburb of Shappy, I think, Shappy. And they don't have much to do every day. They just walk around, play pool, drink kava. But they've all got smartphones, or not all of them, but most of them have smartphones, and a few of them have laptops at home, and they don't have any internet at home. Internet here is quite expensive and a little bit slow, but it's getting faster and getting cheaper. But at the moment, it's probably too expensive to use at home for these guys who don't have jobs. So if they don't have jobs, maybe they can learn instead of just doing nothing every day. So using a GPT eSchool hotspot, they can take their smartphone, any touchscreen which has Wi-Fi in it, which is any phone above about 7,000 baht or $70 has Wi-Fi in it, and they can come and connect up to the eSchool and start learning from Khan Academy, from the slide you saw earlier, from the KA Lite. We've also developed a low-cost laptop and wireless router package that enables the user to share eSchool with any number of other Wi-Fi enabled devices for pure offline viewing. So that's based on a laptop connected to wireless router, and the laptop runs a server called KA Lite, the KA Lite package, and then using the wireless router, you can share it with smartphones within range, say about 100 meters line of sight to the wireless router. So these are the different ways you can get connected. You can come down back to our stand there. That's the table with the 10 laptops on it, and you can sit down and learn Khan Academy and get online and learn mathematics and science and computing and everything. So the world is constantly changing and moving forward, and since the devastation of Cyclone Pam, the Category 5 cyclone that swept through Vanuatu, the people have bounced back, and as you can see, Vanuatu is once again open for business, only 2 months since the cyclone. We have a great future ahead of us here in Vanuatu, and we are so lucky in many ways to be here. If you would like to learn for the rest of your life, then come and visit my team next to the large antenna array near the entrance. And that's my slide. I'd just like to thank these different organisations up here who helped IT happen in Vanuatu. So Google, with its cache inside the VIX, they make YouTube and everything a lot faster for us, and all Google services, like searching as well. And then Khan Academy and the Foundation for Learning Equality, who developed the KA Lite system that we've put on our servers. And that's it.
Thank you too much, Ed. The presentation below you, all about accessibility, availability, and affordability. We talk about experience below kata recently Los Santo. I think one challenge we stop hemi kat Pawatu lo every island lo Vanuatu. So I think maybe one lo big challenge whereby you me stop lo face hemi. Thank you, Thomas. The minoni lo Vanuatu so you listen lo tok blem lo earlier lo presentation blem maybe say me been stop lo place 12 years ago. And I think Emika maybe sex all man Vanuatu all pepet lo computer ya internet. Anyway, time lo yumi sako ba yumi ko lo next presenter lo yumi panelist lo today afternoon hemi Tony. And by me very interesting how government department, especially law judiciary unit lo yumi, how only work only use e-government and m-government. Very interesting. So stop around, we'll listen to presentation blame. Me believe why you got some question or comment blow make them later. Another 5-10 minutes presentation before you miss I give him microphone, Nicolo floor, or any question. Thank you, Tony.
Thank you very much. And to everybody, thank you for the opportunity. As John was talking about e-governance and m-governance, I just want to talk to you very quickly about something very, dare I say, practical that I've been involved with for the last 2 years in your great country, and that's to do with the legal and justice sector. So I've been here as part of the Australian Aid Stretton Rod Long Justice Program, and I'm lucky enough to be working with your police, your prosecutors, your judges, corrections, and everybody else, trying to make this thing called e-government come alive within e-justice. And you know, it's interesting to hear all the advancements of technology and you know, listening to satellites and all of that. And that's my world. And unfortunately, justice around the world is still very much pen and paper. And our police move the material from investigation up to prosecution, who move it across to the court. And if you're unfortunate enough to go to jail, the piece of paper will follow, maybe not as fast as you. So at a practical level, what we're trying to do with all of the people within police and prosecution is basically trying to work on that first bit there, adjust society. And how does one describe just? And for us, it's accessible so that you can access justice from wherever you are at any point, any time. And that's a challenge that we have here. It's visible. And a lot of people, I'm sure, in this room, in some ways have had a touch with justice. A friend might have been involved in a court or may have been involved with the police. And access to information or visible information about where is my case up to is almost impossible. So a just system needs to be accessible, visible, and at the end of the day, it needs to be trusted. So we're working very closely with the agencies to try and introduce technologies that in some countries would be, you know, maybe 20 or 30 years old, things like case management systems and computers that everybody can use. So our experience over the last 2 years is that we still haven't necessarily got off the pen and paper, but as John was saying, there's a tremendous amount of enthusiasm. The support from the OGCIO is just amazing. It's one of your great strengths in this country. Yes, we've got to change some laws and some rules to allow lawyers to electronically file material, those sorts of things. But at the end of the day, if you don't have trust in your justice system, it really doesn't hold well for other things. So I can assure you the police, the prosecutors and the judges are very actively working on all of this. And they don't want to sit there screaming at, you know, another big file that comes across their desk. So, you know, we all expect a lot of things out of justice. And, you know, I guess over time, you know, we've gone from sort of old technologies, you know, and at the moment everybody's talking about the tablets. Well, we've got a long way to go with our legal system because, as I say, it's pen and paper. So who knows what it's going to be like in a few years' time. So I'll jump over that one due to time, but our focus is very much with our police and our prosecutors and our courts and state law office as well. And hopefully tomorrow you'll be able to access information via the web as a citizen. You'll be able to access your file, see where your case is up to. I thought this was very timely given our talk about mobiles and smartphones and everything, and all those younger people at the end of the room, hopefully by the time that you come through and into the workforce and working in the legal sector, hopefully we've got some things in place for you. So we do believe that one of the great vehicles for which to access justice will be the mobile phone, be it a smartphone or, as I call it, my old dumb phone. We're already starting to see the use of Facebook, certain courts. The Supreme Court here, working with the Chief Justice, we're very keen to get a website up and running this year. And at the end of the day, you know, a much more visible and accessible and trusted judicial system. So, you know, maybe one day we'll use the cloud. Maybe one day we'll even talk into the mobile phone and have our judgments, you know, written up for us. Maybe. Maybe we'll use Skype so you don't have to travel to a courthouse. Maybe you can just Skype in from wherever you may be. And I can assure you all of these technologies, including the infrastructure that OGCIO provide, hopefully, you know, if I sat up here in another year's time, I'd be able to give you some, you know, very big news about implementations of systems across these agencies. So thank you very much. It's, you know, as John pointed out particularly, we've got a lot of things, but the confidence that I've got after 2 years with you and OGCIO and the support of the judiciary and the police, etc., I'm confident. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Thomas. Tony, you may give him one big clap, Lotrivala, panelist, you may very interesting. Short presentation, but me believe say you learn some information today. Sambala question, I think men one now say, also one lol cases takolo police, paiko kasem lo koto no. But Tony, me just tell them no more. So, you know, things session, me finish lo today. I continue yet lo tomorrow more. I start invite them you. Suppose you got some more question about how judiciary blow Vanuatu me work, you come back lo tomorrow. ICT Day celebration, you know, finish today. And me continue kasem tomorrow, even lo tomorrow night too, me understand. No forget say every presentation start lo morning, and me number 3 session ya. Eliko lo one goal no mo vision lo government, blow government PAA priority action agenda. Blow Vanuatu become one just, educated, healthy, and wealthy country. So every presentation ya, me believe say you have me clear, more simple. Trivial I stop, but you may give him small time, you call low floor. You got any question? Low trivial presentation today afternoon, microphone, all stop around. You sabe resum up hand blow you. Like give him microphone blow you, low any question where you got. Especially low presentation blow John, more Tony, with them Ed. Thank you. Anyone got any question? Also me tell them finish. Say information and me power, one role get me tell them back and me emphasize them lot today afternoon. And me sharing blow information, you connect them people together, people with them government together. Information with government and me disseminate them, me come back to you me people also Vanuatu one democratic country. You me inform well, lo sabe make them one better decision, time one election come on top. So flow me blow you. You got one question? You summarize some question by me giving me go back lo MC blow you me blow and me take care long all question today afternoon. You make at one hand and me raise blow middle. Thank you.
Thanks. So my question is for all 3 panelists. You all have a lot of really interesting ideas that you talked about, but it seems to me that there's a fundamental assumption of a certain level of computer literacy among the people who are going to be using it. And I think particularly in a developing country, I mean, I'm sure the kids, the younger people will have that level of computer literacy. With adults, I don't see it. I work with university students, and even with a lot of them, you know, who are 17, 18, 19 years old, even they sometimes have difficulty using even basic computer functions. So my question to you is, do any of the programs that you're implementing, are you incorporating computer literacy training or anything like that to make it useful to people? Thank you.
Good question. I'm happy to go first. Within the justice sector, there's certain agencies that computer literacy would be a little bit more of a challenge. But overall, I'd have to say, and I work very closely every day, I'm at court, corrections, prosecution, state law, etc. I don't see it as big a challenge as maybe we might have a few years ago. There's tremendous amount of use of email, Excel, Word, those sorts of things, and there's always internet. So I think in a broader police environment where you've got 300 officers in this country and access to a PC is not necessarily a day-to-day thing, but by and large, for e-justice, I'm relatively comfortable, confident. So, but police, yeah, we do need to do a lot of work, but also we need to think about expectations of a policeman sitting at a computer terminal versus being out on the street doing what they are paid to do. So you've got to balance. We don't want them to become PC jockeys.
I think that was an excellent question. And what I would say in response is that a best practice e-government design and implementation strategy is going to include an assessment of the capability of the constituents that a particular e-government or m-government application is designed to serve to actually make use of it. So because of computer or computer literacy capabilities, in the health sector, you might not want to have your first priority to be to roll out an e-government or m-government applications for individual patients to manage their relationship with caregivers. Instead, you might want to focus on an m-government application for visiting nurses, where the population is, by definition, probably going to be slightly better educated and slightly more, at least slightly more, or maybe a lot more computer literate. So you have to be strategic in thinking about the initiatives that you select as priorities to focus your attention on. And in that example I just gave, the face-to-face interaction between a visiting nurse in a rural area and a patient, where the visiting nurse is using an m-government application to input data and make sure that the data is private and well recorded and stored in a way that physicians that may not be in that area on a regular basis can make use of it. One of the advantages of that face-to-face interaction, that may be the first time that that particular patient is exposed to a computer-based, whether it's a little one in a phone or on a tablet or a laptop, a computer-based application. That's a learning and teachable moment right there. The schools are doing a fine job of having young people exposed to, and they take to it naturally anyway, like ducks to water. But for older patients, older citizens, part of the design of a priority e-government application can include the out and education activities, so that 3, 4, 5 years down the road, maybe an application for the individual citizen user can be taken up more readily by more people. I guess the second thing I would say is that e-government and m-government ICT-enabled services do not replace and eliminate the more traditional services. But if you think about services, that in order for people to take advantage of services, they may have to travel long distances or things like that. Sometimes ICT-enabled services are the only way that previously unserved or underserved citizens are going to be able to take advantage of them. The design of an individual initiative has to take into account the capabilities of the users that the initiative is designed to serve. that has to be a core part of e-government initiative design. And the initiatives that fail are the initiatives that fail to take that into account.
Thank you. Ed, would you like to add some additional answers?
Yeah, I'd just like to say that the GPT e-school thing is designed to run on the devices that people are already using, like laptops, smartphones, touchscreen, desktop computers. So if you know how to use your mobile phone, then you can use e-school. It's easy to use. And maybe that'll help start the building blocks so you can start using the justice system online and that type of thing. That's all.
Thank you, Thomas. Atta.
Thank you. Just to participate, I think the question that you asked was very, very interesting because I think basically one of the main points of the question was, why are we making the society much more harder if people cannot follow that level of technological trend and that futuristic mode that the whole world is going into? I think in terms of business and competitions, there's always going to be something new coming out tomorrow. Today it's Facebook, tomorrow it's going to be something else. Yesterday it was the typewriter. Then you know it was the internet on PCs in the office or PCs and computers at home, which people had limited access to. When we were in school back then, a Pacific island similar to Vanuatu, kids used to line up just to get on the internet to play games until prior to when the internet was actually set up. And then the whole concept and promotion of educating society with useful websites that could actually enhance and give value added to a student's education. But I think the way that society is moving today, with technology being at such a peak and continuing with worldwide trends, it's putting a very heavy burden on society for them to get educated quickly, technologically. And of course, as we do know with everyday and things that do happen in life, when something's created today, for example, sending letters through the post office, it's email. After email comes something next. It's messaging on Facebook, it's text messaging. There's so much more businesses in the world, so much new inventions that are coming out to make life so much easier. I was very particularly touched by Ed's speech, being able to for people that have not made it through the education process, second chance education, everyone, even though they haven't graduated well after class 6 or got a secondary education or even tertiary because they didn't get a scholarship because mum and dad couldn't afford it, they all have phones. And how better can we make it but to make it easy? If the education is not going to come through them physically, let's take it to them on a phone. People can learn, as you said, kids can appreciate how to wash plates. They can help cook, whether you start with learning how to boil an egg to make a Mexican scrambled egg. It's all there, education, you know. So bringing education to them in technology is so important, you know. Education is important because it helps people make better decisions for themselves, their families, and also the country tomorrow. I'm also particularly touched by Tony, because coming from a legal background, in 1996, after 20 years in Vanuatu, the legal system back then, even the degrees were very manual. Back then, when Professor Don Patterson, who was one of the main people behind the legal faculty at the USB, or University of the South Pacific, law degrees at that time, or law certifications, were only diploma and certificate level. So how do you do a degree or a degree program? You get people that are qualified in law that learn international law all over the world and regionalize it. Back then, most of the lectures were based on case law that were in books, or cases taplo book. So when you need to learn a case because Judge XYZ from London said this is now a common law principle, you have to go back to the book. So now, through development, all the legal cases around the Pacific, thanks to PACLI. PACLI is now a new website where time you want to find them one decision law, one case law, Nauru or Fiji or Solomon Islands or PNG or even in Vanuatu, it's all there. It's just within a click of a finger. So like I can really appreciate where you're going together with databasing all the cases,
filing, I mean, everything. And the most encouraging thing for me about the future of ICT services, and especially e-government services, is when I see my son sitting with his grandmother on a couch, and he's explaining to her how, in addition to using email, she can order a movie ticket online. So we do have a down-looking generation, but sometimes those down-looking kids actually sit with an up-looking older person, and education goes on everywhere, not just in schools and on applications. And I'm sure many of the students that we met today over the course of the next year will have conversations with their parents and grandparents around the devices that they're using and the power that is locked within them. And so I think it's encouraging. I don't mean to minimize the point of the earlier comment. It's a fact and it needs to be taken into account. But I think the glass is far more than half full than it is half empty.
Thank you, Thomas. Emi interesting, Thomas. Misa vese fulak mani stare seman blo. Ask him question before you may run out late. Time blo you may go by me garam 1 or 2 question no more with them answers. Lo all panelists after by you may close them session blo today afternoon Moses.
Thank you, Thomas, MC. We heard of, someone spoke about information is power. Then there comes the issue of accessing those information on the part of members of the society. And then sister here raised the question of literacy. How do we understand the internet? How do we access computer and access internet? Then access to those information. If we can elaborate on, well, I know that there's a right to information bill being developed at the moment, but how would the e-government mechanism complement this concept of accessing information?
Again, at a practical level within justice, obviously there's certain information that needs to be very, very secure. A family law matter is only privy to those in that proceeding. There's also a need to make information available about, is my case still with investigation, or is my case now at prosecution, or is my case at court? So there's certainly widespread acknowledgement that within the next 2 years, as the quality of the information internally is to a point where they trust it, then consideration to then making it available to the people as and when needed and with due amount of security. You can jump online today and have a look at Federal Court of the US and see what cases and where they're up to. Federal Court of Australia, but Family Court of Australia can't see anything unless you're party to the proceeding. So I think there's definitely recognition of the importance of the security and the channel by which you come in through, whether it's a mobile phone or an internet. Same as if you come up to the counter, you just can't come up to the counter and say, can I have a look at your file? So it's high on the radar. We've got to get our backyard in order so that they trust the information first, like the police or the prosecutors or the judges. And then over time, very carefully make information available.
I think that's a very important description about information of varying degrees of sensitivity and security that is part of the justice system. That description can be generalized and applied to the treatment of all government information. Not all government information should be available to everybody. And most countries have laws that apply to access to information. sometimes they call them Freedom of Information Acts or public records laws. Sometimes you find it in archives laws. But every single one of those laws sets out standards for information that should be widely public available versus different layers, categories, I should say, of information, the distribution of which needs to be restricted. And the rules in these laws require the government body that collects or generates that information to make an evaluation under the standards in those laws about how it is going to be treated. Is it going to be fully publicly available, or is it going to be restricted? And that would apply to individual education records, health records, national security related information. The use of ICTs to automate isn't a word that really does what e-government is doing justice, but for now we'll say automate. The use of ICT tools to automate those processes and decisions doesn't change the fact that those processes and decisions still have to be made. Robots are not deciding what information is going to be made publicly available. Human beings still have to make that decision based on the standards, the norms that are contained in legislation, subject to constitutional protections. What ICT tools do is enable you to do it faster, to do it in many cases much more accurately. Third, to keep track of it all. And fourth, to organize it in a way so that it doesn't get lost, so that when you need to see it, whether you're one of the few people that are entitled to access to restricted information or anyone in the general public that's entitled to access to publicly available information, it's actually there and you can find it. I worked on the the e-justice project in Abu Dhabi. They had boxes and boxes of paper records in rooms that nobody had been into for years. So if somebody wanted to find an old case, it was impossible. The first thing we did in that assignment was we rented 50 document scanners and started scanning all these documents, and then we applied a metadata screen to categorize what the document was and the case number and so forth. So now all of these documents that everybody thought was lost forever are now accessible, but only to the people that have the proper authority to access them. So the rules haven't changed, but the processes that we use to do the functions that we're supposed to do with respect to information are enabling us to do it a lot better in all of the respects that I just mentioned.
Thank you, Thomas John. Okay, me want to say me round up discussion today afternoon. But I got one more question. Then by me give him law aid. Suppose me got some thing blow adam up blow one him to vala panelist.
Sorry, no, just a last comment. Sometimes it dawns on me the question, can technology slow down? Can it come back to where we in society in Vanuatu are at the moment? And then I think it's a rhetorical question where Vanuatu is part of an ever so changing, developing first world. Technology is always going to be advancing. You'll always have new people coming out of schools and universities every day trying to create things that are faster, better, quicker. I mean, like as some of the presentations said this morning, before Google was something else. Before Facebook was something else. And of course, the creator of Facebook turned 30 yesterday. At 30 years old, he's worth 13 billion. So it's all about the money. It's always about development in the name of technology as well. So, and again with Facebook, some countries around the Pacific have banned like Nauru, which is currently in the news feed. Some countries are regulated, some not. But I think my remnants here with Vanuatu is, can we slow down technology? Probably the answer is no. The onus is on society to catch up. And I think for regulators and for the government and people in charge to ensure that it becomes a useful tool of education for today, upcoming, or yesterday's generation, today's generation, and the future generation. Thank you.
Thank you, Ata. John.
I feel I have to respond to that one. The appetite to catch up is huge. Your Chief Justice, your Commissioner, your Public Prosecutor, they know they're 20 or 30 years behind the rest of this other sector. They do not want to be left behind. They want to know where the hot spots of crime are. They want to know where their cases are up to, and they want to make that information available to people in due course. It's not going to make things run quicker. It's not going to suddenly make a civil case disappear in 2 days. But I can assure you that the appetite to catch up and stop this manual writing something down 15 times, they want to catch up. And they're not worried about Facebook or satellites. They just want to get their house in order. So I think it's...
When the AT&T phone system was broken up in 1982 in the United States, my grandmother, who was in her 80s at the time, had a lot of choices that she'd never had before. And she always used to complain, you know, what's the point? AT&T always provided me a good, reliable service. I don't need any fancy phone like this. Well, several years later, she was, you know, she had picked a long distance provider, and she was thrilled to be making inexpensive calls to everyone she knew using the new services that were available. I think there's a level of, I guess, natural concern, apprehension that comes with any change. But the story that Tony just told us about the justice system and the need and the desire to catch up is a story that's going to be replicated across many, 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 many sectors. Should we just rush willy-nilly into the future? No, it's appropriate to think about it. I mean, these are philosophical questions at some point. But the drive, the need to harness the power that ICT tools can do to advance far more quickly than was possible when all you had was paper and pen to do it. I don't know. It seems like an obvious choice to me. Maybe I've drunk the Kool-Aid, but it seems obvious to me.
Well, Olga, thank you too much, everyone. Yumi giving one clap, lo trivala panelists, lo Yumi, lo afternoon, yeah. Thank you, lo Yuvala, way contribute lo questions. You know, run away. You're supposed to still got some questions, something you know clear lo presentation we come out lo today afternoon. Olga, by still stop around, ikatol boot to lo behind lo Yumi. Anything enough, right? No hesitate. Just go around and ask him question. And come back tomorrow and nemia too, you know, end the session today afternoon. Got one more session yet. But with everyone where you will stop. Thank you, Thomas. Give him clap, lo you one back again. Thank you. Lo stop.
Thank you, Tomas. You got 2 more sessions when we stop. Session 4 or session 5. You follow, we just join them, Yumi Lo ICT Day. Today, Friday, number 15 May, Yumi Makem 150 years of information, communication, and technology around the world in the Pacific and also here in Vanuatu. Osem logo emitalam 1865 to 2015, and 150 years is 15 decades of technology and information and communication. Our next panel discussion, Blayumi, session 4, topic hemi ICT innovation in the financial sector. ICT innovation, ICT long financial sector. How now all financial institutions, most sectors, Layumi lo Vanuatu, only stop using ICT, more all innovations way, only stop use them long upgrade them all systems progata. This session looks at the ICT innovation in the financial sector, covering all the mobile banking innovation within Vanuatu and how that meets the government's priority action agenda vision of a just education, healthy and wealthy Vanuatu. Similarly, we will also learn how ICT innovation meets the government financial inclusion objectives in the past few years to allow more people to access financial services. Moderator Blo Yumi Blo today, Emi Jackson Miake, Lo PM's ICT OCIG office. Presentation by Kamlo Mr. Peter Tari, the Deputy Governor of the Reserve Bank of Vanuatu, and panelists Hemi Mr. Jordan Waystock from Open Revolution USA, more Miss Doreen Lango Blo VNPF. Thank you, Tomas.
Thank you, Thomas. Ada, blo introduce some session. Suppose Miss Avias kami free panelist, blo oli come up. Include Torin, lo VNPF. Suppose you have it join me lo session. ICT innovation, lo financial sector. Thank you. Okay, thank you, Thomas. While you missed up with the last panelist, Blo join me. You just come in session hemi session number 4 about ICT innovation lo financial sector. So you misave banking, sema call sem telecommunication service, hemi one sector where hemi quite difficult, especially lo Vanuatu. You make all people, all use all financial service where all commercial banks as well as all individuals and other companies all stop set them up, reach all people. So this afternoon you be fortunate look at all 3 experts where all stop what you mean discuss ICT innovation, lo financial sector. On my right, we have Mr. Peter Tari. He's the Deputy Governor of the Reserve Bank of Vanuatu. Thank you, Mr. Tari, for joining us in our 4th session for this afternoon. And lo middle, lo right side me, hemi Mr. Jordan Wanstack, hemi come also lo Open Revolution, and only make them plan the work, lo side lo mobile banking, and him too by him make one presentation this afternoon about this fellow topic. And one panel member me lo far right, hemi Miss Doreen Lango, hemi start with them Vanuatu National Provident Fund, and by hemi contribute to lo how big fellow organization me VNPF, hemi start use some ICT, lo hemi role model service people blame me. So without further talk, by me now give him time, lo Mr. Peter Tari, hemi Deputy Governor of Reserve Bank, lo hemi proceed, lo make him first for the presentation blame me lo session. Thank you.
Good afternoon. First, thank you Thomas long opportunity when you last I came lo miflat short presentation lo afternoon, and also topic dalam in ICT innovation lo financial sector play yumi. I think lo startup we want them make them small background. Lo side lo ICT mo financial sector, and then by me look small commitment lo bank, lo side lo all innovations here, and by me look to lo innovation lo financial product and services where we are available, and then look lo opportunities where we start lo I say development going forward lo future. Lo side lo background, Reserve Bank hemi taking up one responsibility, lo side lo financial inclusion, development hemi minim se, imi want them taking financial services, equal all population where only no yet receiving all financial services here. And hemi look lo side lo all banking products, all some savings and credit, all payment services, and also you may want them look to lo side lo insurance. So financial inclusion have you one responsibility, one additional responsibility belong Reserve Bank. And we belong try and coordinate them all financial services here with them all different stakeholders, or is a reaching all bank or disadvantaged people blaming lo Vanuatu. Now, make them assessment here. You may be got one financial services sector assessment where we conducted long 2011, and long assessment here you may find out say 19%. 19% total population below Vanuatu only got access to financial services here. Now, time you talk about 19%, have me low too much. And you may find them too, say, you got about 76,000 or oh, that's technology. Eh? Yes, you may find them out too, say, you got 76,000 or 32% population will stop within the market boundary where Olisa got access, but only not got access to financial services here. Sure. Yes, so you may find about 76,000 people all established all market area where you may say reach him over there, you may not say reach him. So you may start look long provide them or coordinate them all services here where all stakeholders play me, especially all banks, all insurance company, and all other stakeholders. All is provide them all financial services where equal all population where all is regime, they only know side regime. And you may look say full up me, no cut that financially educated population. Don't you get full up, only no financially literate, and have no all access to financial services. Some only available, but only expensive. So you may think say an important blow. You may all stakeholders, all different stakeholders, so they come together. Blow make them say all financial services here will become available. Or population will not cut, only not cut yet. Lo side lo Reserve Bank commitment usem imi sabe imi take up responsibility of financial inclusion and lo side lo commitment lo bank imi been establishing one task force where we call them Vanuatu National Financial Inclusion Task Force lo 2014 and call blow him blow make him say all financial services lo all people by me will not cut yet all is cut all services here within lo all years where all is come and hemi come through lo one national coordinated effort where hemi take all the service providers and also government institutions lo try drive financial inclusion and become more effective and become more important all people bring me where only know got access to all financial services. So I now one commitment where Reserve Bank me take them up with them all different stakeholders lo you mean where you mean kudum all private sector government more yes you mean everyone. Now, lo side lo develop all products, all financial institution, Reserve Bank hemi give him to all no objection letter all commercial banks. Lo all is pilot them more introduce all products blogada, issue more modern technology and especially all mobile phones. And hemi lo reach all population where only no got access yet lo financial services here. Now, suppose you look all products now where all financial institutions only offer them. I got all commercial banks, for example, ANZ, then we got co-money, me one mobile money product. We got National Bank, me Easy Money, and then Westpac, we got all in-store banking, one sort of agent banking. And we got one Mopi Money, one new institution where we provide them money transfers and Reserve Bank we give one no objection letter, blow is our development product here. Now, I think that you look back, history, financial services and all technology wake up, you got a lot of change inside the banking sector. Before, you talk about ATM, look at money, now, yeah, every money is from ATM. So everyone change how banking services have been delivered all population believe me. And if you want them drive him, you call all people where you got access to him yet. So I think a commitment where Reserve Bank have got side ICT more financial services. So Mimi hadn't finished, got all mobile money services only contribute to government payments. So I think in previous presentation I talked about small on opportunities we stop some government payments to using mobile money, and also you may want them look say at interoperability, the side banking system at the moment. Services have very any limited no more or even card. Then you got one ANZ ATM card, so I call you some Westpac ATM. So everyone issue where you need development improve services where all people only need them. I think future too you need improve telecommunication network, also GPRS and M-banking. All thinking where all opportunities we start and develop them all financial services where people play me always have a cut access to them. And alongside remittances, it got all technology is that change, more innovation, more it got possibility to improve foreign exchange operators using modern technology and also money transfers. So, hemi all issue mi always YouTube lo address mo de-risking businesses. And online transfer hemi sa kamanda plante and na ye only sa use Facebook and got other methods too where only sa use them. Now one look at the issue where meetings we touch small previously me about culture change. Have me want something where I think full up lo Yumi got all culture where stuff where easy to change. So even suppose you got all mobile phone with the more modern technology, but people only tend to give him, for example, or give him cash. Only want to look cash, or no one got depositing all money no bank or kind issue all same. And me one challenge, but me think say me need him a lot of awareness. Look importance for ICT with them financial services where at least I receive him. Yes, I think thank you too much. Suppose you got any question, there's answer.
Okay, thank you too much, lo Deputy Governor of Reserve Bank, lo kiman overview, lo wanem now Reserve Bank hem stab megam, mol sem one regulator, lo side lo financial services inside lo Vanuatu. By you may proceed to Jordan to do your presentation before you may take further questions after Lohemia.
Thanks, Jackson. So I'm going to talk a little bit further about two things that I guess everyone here cares a lot about. That's mobile phones and money. So we'll talk about that. And not the water, the clicker. So this slide is accurate for Vanuatu, but it's also accurate for most developing countries around the world. And it shows the gap between the number of mobile phones there are in a country and the number of bank accounts. And that tells us two things. First, it says there's a big opportunity for financial inclusion that mobile technologies can help bridge. It also says that the mobile operators have done a much better job than the financial institutions in developing a mass market product. Sorry. And so what I think is happening is there's a convergence now between the financial sector and the communication sector that's looking to bridge this gap. And banks and traditional financial institutions are becoming more innovative in developing products. At the same time, third-party operators as well as mobile service providers are looking at the successes they've had with mass market products and developing their mobile money products. And one thing that's been very refreshing here in Vanuatu is that the financial regulator has taken a very progressive view at what he's going to allow and how he's going to control it, and making sure that the right protections are in place for consumers, but at the same time not stifling innovation. The big advantage of mobile banking or these mobile products or agent banking is that it can move the service point much closer to the consumer. So as this slide illustrates, in a traditional financial system, there are bank branches, but as I know from my short time here in Vanuatu, I can see most of the bank branches and ATM machines on the main street in Vila, and as I get further away from that street, the frequency of ATMs and bank branches gets lower and lower. In places where agent banking or other mobile financial services are prevalent, you'll start to see agents and merchants using mobile money products begin acting as service points where people can conduct transactions and where people can get cash or put cash into a system. And so it becomes much more and more convenient to own an account and to conduct financial transactions. And as the geography in Vanuatu dictates, some of the locations here are very remote, and the closer financial services can get to the people, the more likely the financial inclusion goals can be met. As mentioned previously, in addition to the banks developing their own mobile products, there are 3 current products that really meet the definition of mobile money. There's the ANZ product, the new Mobi Money product, as well as the Digicel product. Each of them have characteristics that are consistent with what makes mobile money an advantageous product. The registration of an account while maintaining the know your customer requirements is much less rigorous. The cost to the institution of maintaining the account is much lower, and I would say, fees associated with banking transactions are much lower than a traditional account. And so in many ways, it's an ideal product for an individual or a business that has small transaction size, small deposits, and is not located in an area that there are many, many bank branches. The purpose of this slide is to talk a little bit about what makes up the ecosystem and how the different elements of the mobile banking system can bring the products closer to the consumer and make it more useful to them. The financial inclusion goals mean that everyone in Vanuatu can have access to the formal financial sector. And what that means, in addition to a secure place to save funds, a way to conduct transactions, a way to interact online and make payments, is also the fact that in many countries, they're using the mobile money transaction data to facilitate lending. And so someone who in the past had no financial history, through a mobile money account, can begin to establish a payment history, a deposit history, and can very quickly begin to qualify for other services such as loans and other forms of payment. And so the benefits that we've talked about really translate to them becoming more productive citizens. It's easier to start a business if you have access to financial services. It's easier to, as I said, gain mobile payments. And one of the key things for a mobile money system to work is scale. So it's one of those things where if everybody's using it, it works great. But if only a few people are using it, it is less than a convenient.
Okay, by making small time lotorin, suppose hemi save use some example blo VNPF lo how now technology hemi use some sorry how now technology hemi useful blo only
about 57,000 registered members and about 30,000 active members, and how now we will deliver them 20% relief. So VNBF hemi so fortunate hemi save develop within less than 5 days. Hemi develop one application where Nemblehem hemi PAM, and then PAM now hemi help him mifla blo mivla save disperse payment blo all members where it go as far as hemi mivla deposit blo account or mivla write them checks blo only come collect them. And that application ya Nemblehem hemi PAM, and hemi kat 3 stages lahem, hemi kat registration, hemi kat approval, and then hemi kat payment. So that's how ICT hemi been helping VNBF lo hemi save implement them or deploy 20% relief equal all members within that short period of time. And application ya hemi traceable, you save trace them, suppose member hemi ringi kam hemi want them save wehana hemi status lo application blahem mi vela save talem se application hemi stablo registration level, approval level, or payment level. Even mi vela save talem se payment blo you mi vela I depositim blo pang account blo you finish low date ya. And then with them all checks, mi vela save talem tu out lo application ya, hemi save give mi vela information say check ya hemi ready for collection finish lo next day or no. So that was one of the big achievement where ICT hemi been help lo blesia lo mi vela VNBF hemi save disperse 20% relief ya equal all VNBF members. The next, all Narafala services, ICT services, where VNPF, hemi Yusum, hemi fee SMS. Fee SMS, hemi one platform, blow SMS, where VNPF, hemi Yusum, and mi service, you will have blande inside there, you will not register lo VNPF yet, fee SMS. So you will must come, you will must register. from the through lo service ya you survey check and balance for you. You survey check and balance for account for you, retirement investment with the Medisave. And every time employer blue you, hemi pay contribution blue you, by him ikat one SMS notification, hemi come through lo mobile phone blue you, say employer blue you, hemi start pay contribution blue you. VNBF2, hemi want them deploy financial services inclusion and all transactions flow payment between employer with them VNBF all islands. The problem mivla is that yes, of course, ikat mobile coverage, pe mivla inokat mobile solutions, applicant solutions, mivla save deploy or mivla save implement them instead of system mivla. And thank you, Blolukim Sambala Lol Industries organizations finished we only come up with the most solutions here. But yet mivla must look him say hemi must roll out and hemi trusted, mivla take him on board. But already, thank you to Masol Keta, we only come up finished with them all solutions here. VNBF, let me just introduce you. One name, if I call them ICT Enterprise Strategic Plan. And inside the strategic plan, yeah, let me address them all weaknesses from VNBF and let me recommend them all strategies. One name na VNBF, but let me make them, let me survey usum ICT, or them let me one solution, let me create one environment, let me survey, manage them with them operate them fund, blow all members. And then also blow me access equal remote areas. And ICT strategic plan, yeah, me address them 9 strategies. And suppose me remember some lol kita me infrastructure, security, remote access, and of course devices and applications. And one strategic plan where me really help me lo VNBF. And me also tell them thank you lo OCCIO where me been helping me lo VNBF. Lo mi vile kamanda, lo mi vile go through lo one tender process, and then we will bring him on board all expertise. Lo only develop ICT enterprise strategic plan ya. And me believe so lo Vanuatu, I think VNBF and one all companies where me cut, and me really help me vila lo mi vila save understand them one na me problem lo mi vila, and then how now problem ya ba mi vila save where lo mi vila ko. And how na ba help me lo one steps lo mi vla take lo mi vla addressable problem ya mo implement them all strategic plan where hemi stablo for it or hemi stab inside lo ICT strategic plan ya. And lo kopak with them mobile solutions or mobile money one lo all strategies ya na hemi talk about all applications and remote access. Remote access hemi one issue blow at the same time hemi one big for a challenge blow VNPF. From a lot of companies, a lot of employers, a lot of members, only staff outside lo bot fila. And how na ba yumi kasemol keta? How na ba yumi richmol keta? At the moment, I'm one very difficult activity where all employers do only try and reach in VNBF, but there is no proper infrastructure or one proper solution in between. Blow only get only have access them wherever they are. For example, suppose only stablo one employer is stablo anaichom, hemi making business lo tourism, hemi Apple lo hemi savepem VMPF contributions lo all member lo anaichom no pe hemi no save at the moment when name mi fly cut hemi ko deposit money lo NBV, but and then at the moment mi fly receive him all schedules plahem, all payments plahem. It's already about 3 months late. And few months late, automatically system generate penalties. And there's a lot of issues with the current system at the moment. So with them ICT strategic plan, yeah, VNBF, Mr. Blue Look, Lohemi Survey, used to
the services available.
Thank you, Tony. We have 3 hands. We'll go ladies first. Can we pass the mic to the back? Sorry, Tony. First to USP. It's Luis. From TRR, sorry.
Jordan, I think this will be a question to you. Because I heard the Deputy Governor say something about improving telecommunication services, and he mentioned GPRS. So could you be able to give us the examples in Haiti and Kenya and the other places? What's the least, technology that can be utilized by the operators here, and even considered by the businesses that can run these mobile services in the rural communities, especially the places in the rural and remote areas? So I'm sure Digicel, TVL, and the others are listening out there. So if you can give some of those examples and experiences, then we'd be able to know what sort of technology we can go up to in terms of banking services for the rural communities, knowing very well that it's a challenge to take, 3G and higher technologies into the rural communities. Thank you.
I mean, fortunately, the basic mobile banking services don't require much bandwidth and will work on 2G systems. So the systems available here, one is SMS-based, another is USSD-based, and can be operated on the lowest type of handset. So your basic Nokia phone will work. For some of the applications that are associated with the banks, they're much more like a web-based application and work better the higher the bandwidth and work better with a smartphone. But for services that we're talking about that are pure mobile money services, the networks that are currently deployed, assuming there's at least some degree of coverage, will work with the most inexpensive handset.
Thank you, Jordan. Suppose him save Karam next question.
When we talk about electronically sending money, I think probably the most old-fashioned way of doing it is Western Union. And I do know that, and it does get used a lot here in Vanuatu. I was wondering whether that sort of more low-tech option had also been explored when looking at particularly developing countries and things like that, or whether Western Union itself is trying to make its services more technologically available.
So for a while, especially for international remittances, Western Union was the only game in town, and they priced their services accordingly. And so since the advent of mobile money that in some countries does a really strong job with domestic remittances, Western Union has begun partnering, begun looking at different technologies and approaches. The issue remains that the Western Union offices are sort of like bank branches. There's not hundreds of them in the country, whereby a system that either relies on a peer-to-peer, I'm sending money to you, or an agent-based system that has many more agents that are either small shops but also handle mobile money transactions, that it moves much closer to the communities that they're trying to serve. So I think when you say, have we Western Union looked at it? Yes, they recognize that the field is no longer being left solely to them, and so they are developing products and services where they can and where they feel they need to. For some things like large international remittance corridors, they're still, from a regulatory standpoint and others, the only game in town, and they still price their services awfully high.
Thank you, Jordan. By Mikaram, last question, Nikamlo Ada.
Thank you. Yes. Just a comment. As the major promoters for like once all this new technology and these new way to do things in the name of quicker, faster, modern, efficient, Western comes into a certain market, then like it comes to media, and then media is the one that puts it out to the public to make sure it's appealing, they like it, making sure that they understand how to use it and how the more positive aspects of the services to make sure that they understand how to use it before they actually do. So as the major promoters of ANZ Go Money, of course, as you mentioned, it's relatively lower. And then you ask yourself, okay, why didn't like 100% of the whole population just go mobile money? Okay, well, of course, there's several banks. You've got Bread, you've got, and each of them have their mobile products. But of course, with ANZ Go Money, the percentage of people that actually use mobile money or that access their accounts via mobile is always going to be a little bit relatively lower. Thus, the push from the commercial banks to get more people educated on how to use it. For example, with ANZ Go Money, you need two things. You need basically a digital mobile phone and, of course, your account and linking the two, and then people actually understanding how to use it. But quite interestingly, while we're going through this whole technological phase about getting services more electronic, more into the future, all of a sudden out of nowhere comes like electronic money. And that totally freaked me out because like academics, the ultimate question was also the psychological shift between actual cash and electronic money. I mean, for maybe the modern day average person in the world, having a bit of money in the pocket, having your bank balance on your phone, having your extra overdrafts on your credit cards, it keeps that person like in order. But then the question about the psychological phase that changed from a cashless, a cash using society to a totally cashless society. Also, like with Mobi Money, it's like, okay, it's a fantastic product. Like you've got money on your phone, say 10,000 or 100,000 Vadu. I go to the shop. Okay, I don't pay him cash. If I want to get groceries, I pay him 1,000. If we're at the Nakamals, I pay the Nakamal seller 200 Vadu. But then they'll all
And I met him, by at this stage, he Mr. looks full up people are still giving money and the madras blog and the statistics I'm showing one big amount. Well, at this now, yeah, I think gave me about over 6 billion Vadu outside the banking system. So Anyone
For that to take place from the time I got my first credit card till the time I hardly have cash in my wallet was probably 20 years. The other thing that's happened is my salary gets put in the bank automatically, my rent gets taken out automatically, the bills I have to get. So I have some money at the beginning of the month and then I have no money at the end of the month, just like everybody else. And very little cash takes place. When I come to Vanuatu, the first thing I do is go to the ATM on Main Street, get cash, because there's not that many places where I want to eat that's going to take either mobile money or a card. But as the acceptance points increase and people, they'll find the need for cash becomes less and less. But I'm not in the prediction business as to when it will happen here.
Thank you, Jordan, for that answer. By me ask him last question, lo Deputy Governor, before you move in. So, what are all statistics we have missed up? When I'm now thinking to you about how now technology by hemi support banking services, blow only reach goal, blow financial inclusion, block at 76,000 people, blowly cut access low one banking service by 2017. Sorry, December 2015. Technology hemi help him Reserve Bank blow achieve him kolia or no?
Thank you, Thomas. I think also mi talamis ICT, mi technology, mi provide them support lo all financial services, all places where people only no get access lo emi. And suppose me look back lo you mean lo Vanuatu, you make at one bank where national bank lo emi, and make at all branches where only more or less stop lo every island's Pluyumi, and he also costly lo running all branches there. So meetings lo site lo access by technology. He is a help big one. Lo kasem 76,000 lo 2017, and as it is now, yeah, you mean no really karma one so yet lo looks after lo launching lo ANZ company. With them in-store banking lo Westpac, mo easy money lo National Bank, with them all Nara products, also MOPI. Maybe no karamat Soviet, blow look the Hamas area now only provide them all services we call all population we only no been cut all banking accounts yet, and now only say cut banking account. So I think a little bit too early, but me believes ICT is playing big part long. When it comes all people will get have access to financial services where you may follow up, you may get learn Venice. Thank you, Thomas.
Okay, thank you, Thomas, Mr. Peter Tari. We have Deputy Governor. Me also take an opportunity to thank him, three fellow panelists, the front, Jordan Weinstock from Open Revolution, and also Torin from the National Provident Fund for taking part, and also to our participants who've asked questions. We are tight on time, so can we all give a hand of applause to our panelists?
Thank you, Tomas. Time below me, Emi stop go. Now, Emi stop below 4 p.m. Friday, 15 May. 150 years of ICT. You may acknowledge them today. Since 1865, custom 215. Today's day is proudly brought to you with the compliments of Australian Aid, TRR, Telecommunications and Radio Communications Regulator, Vanuatu Tourism Office, USP, the University of the South Pacific, TVL, Digicel, Pacific Broadband, Satellite, Opticom, Fiber Optic and Communication Network, Inomial, Computer World, Interchange, Think About Tomorrow, Today, CNS, Bread Bank, VNPF, INEC, OneTalk 4G, GPT, SPIM, Mobi Money, Alpha Vanuatu, and Sharper Image. Our final panel discussion afternoon block today, Emmy session 5. It's the fifth and final panel discussion block afternoon. Question Emmy, what ICTs did in Cyclone Pam in terms of long-term and short-term warning and response and the lessons learned. This session reflects work done by the government and private sector in response to Tropical Cyclone Pam disaster, in which approximately 2% of telecommunication services was available throughout the country, and relief efforts to restore communications throughout the islands. Speakers Ployumi today, Mr. Barland Luch Modu, CCO of Telecom Vanuatu, Mr. Fred Samuel, the CIO of OGCIO, and Mr. Brad Patridge, Telcom Consulting. Who's going to be the moderator? Thank you very much. If you've heard your name, would you kindly make your way up to the front? Question, discussion topic, what ICTs did in Cyclone Pam in terms of long-term and short-term warning and response, lessons learned. right after the final discussion, we got presentation slot. Presentation slot, universal access and school connectivity. Universal access and school connectivity. This presentation gives an update on the Vanuatu government's universal access programs to connect schools, distribute tablets, and install internet cafes in rural areas. Way to go, Vanuatu. Our speaker will be Mr. Alma Wenzi, the UAP project manager of TRR, followed by a break between 5:30 and 6, and from 6 to 6:30, live music entertainment with them all Boy Block Malapo. Thank you. Thank you very much. An announcement to Fred Samuel. Suppose you step on premises, please. You're required on the podium. Final panel discussion number 5.
Okay, thank you, Thomas. You may come to last session, blow table me today, before presentation next one, law side by UAP, Universal Access, sorry, and School Connectivity Program. You may join in, hemi session number 5, and by me karam one overview, law trivala we have list up, by me introduce all get first time, before they discuss, it's only a discussion, there will be no presentation. On the experience with Cyclone Pam 2 months ago. So on the table on my right, the first person is Mr. Brad Patridge. He's with Telcom Consulting, formerly with TCL Vanuatu. And after him is Mr. Palan Lutsmudu. He's the Chief Commercial Officer for Telecom Vanuatu Limited, and on the far right, Hemi Fred Samuel, Hemi Chief Information Officer, Plo Vanuatu government. So, our panelists, we will start with Brad. Can you please give us an update on what ICTs did in Cyclone Pam in terms of long-term and short-term warning and response, and what are some of the lessons learned during that experience with natural disasters? Thank you, Brad.
Thank you very much, Jackson. Okay, so I'm here to have a bit of a chat about how, I suppose, Digicel and then therefore ICT can be used in a disaster scenario. And I suppose I'll go right back to the beginning when we started to look at this exercise, and it came out of climate change. So we were talking to Giz on climate change and how we can use technologies to actually provide information to the community to help educate the community on various aspects of climate change and those type of things. So what we came up with was an SMS quiz, whereby we sent out questions via SMS, or we sent out an SMS saying, join the quiz on climate change, learn a bit about climate change and how it affects you and your community and society in general. And so we got people to say yes. It was free to the community. We got people to say yes, and then we would send a number of questions on climate change. What should you do? Sea change, sea rising, how it may affect crops and things like that. And we had quite a good response from that. It got linked in with climate change at that particular point in time. We got a lot of responses back from the public, and it was quite successful. And it was a one-off type of activity. So we continued thinking about, well, what's next? What can we do next? And we were just starting to come into cyclone season. So we decided that why don't we do a quiz on cyclone preparedness? And we did a little bit of analysis on how people are using various information materials to do things. And we found that beyond the major areas of FRT and Santo and Luganville in Santo, the rest of the community didn't have much access to information. There really wasn't any newspaper. There was a bit of radio in some areas. And most of the information that they actually got was either via word of mouth or on a tree, a note posted to a tree. But the one thing we did know is that everybody had a mobile phone. Everybody that was in those communities had a mobile phone. So we knew that we could use the technology to actually get to those people. So we put another quiz together on cyclone preparedness. Same sort of scenario, join in, learn a bit about cyclones and what you should do to prepare yourselves in getting ready. We knew there was a little bit in the media and things like that, but there wasn't a lot. So we did that again, and we had another very good response. And we added a key question at the end of our survey, our quiz, saying, did you find this helpful? And about 63% of respondents said that they found it helpful, which was pretty good, that they're actually getting something out of it. So we were trying to reinforce information and knowledge about these type of things. As we progressed forward, and then we saw that Cyclone Pam was coming in, we decided we'd run the quiz again. So we again hit it out to the market and started getting hits, people coming back and now asking questions. So again, we're starting to get people to understand things, and importantly, reinforcing the message, which I think was the really big thing. And we think this actually had something to do, or may have had something to do with the small number of fatalities that we actually had here in Vanuatu. Beyond the cyclone, we then started to continue work things. So we did some work with the food cluster in again sending a survey out via SMS and getting information back on how much food you actually had there, what the supplies were like, what sort of instruments or implements you may need seeds, and that type of information. And we gave that stuff to the cluster, gave the information to the cluster, and they can then move it forward and there. And as you heard this morning as well, We were also assisting, and I believe TVL were as well, assisting the various NGOs in getting messages out to people on various health aspects and things like that. So the real upshot is that there's a need for information in the community. They don't actually get information very well, but there is a means of getting information out there, and that's via the mobile phone and via SMSs. And so we were able to use those technologies to actually get that information out. I think the NGOs that we've been working with have seen a very positive response to this and are starting to look at it in other areas of the Pacific as well, not only from disaster scenario aspects in doing preparation education and those type of activities, but also as an information methodology to be able to get information out to the people. So from my aspect, in what we did from Digicel, when I was working at Digicel, was use those technologies that are in people's hands and provide them with information and provide tools that can help reinforce the message, because it's all about reinforcement. We all know that you'll read so much once, but twice, 3, 4 times, you really start to get the message to sink in. Beyond that, the next work of ICTs is actually getting networks up and having strong, stable networks, being able to get communications out to the various islands as quick as possible. And I think both the carriers did that in pretty quick time, in being able to get from only having FRT up on the day of the cyclone to actually getting some of the other islands up with respect to the damage that was actually done to Digicel's network and no doubt TVL's network. So I'll stop there, I'll hand over, and then I'll be here for questions. Thank you.
Okay, good afternoon, everybody. Yeah, thank you, Jackson. Thank you, Brad, for this intervention. I think in the same line as Brad has said, today we have been hit by Cyclone Palm on 13th, so it's only Friday. Okay, today we are 15th of May, 2 months after that, and we are organizing such an event, big event. I think it's amazing today. We are here, and everybody here is celebrating the ICT Days, and all the network has been restored in such a fast and quick response. I think we must thanks to all parties, the government, OGCIU, Digicel, NDMO, everybody has contributed to this. But to reach this level of response, I think there's a lot of things that have been done. My intervention will be on 3 parts, maybe what we have done before, during the cyclone, and after the cyclone. So before the cyclone, as I think all operators have, we have a strict policy and procedures to follow. I think most operators have it. But what we have done, I think awareness to our staff was very important. And even in October, we did a preparation before the cyclonic season. That was very important to us. We ensure that all our properties have been properly secured. On the HR and admin side, we ensure that our staff are well prepared, not only at work, but also at their home, so that they secure their home. And on technical side, we can't put our site down so that we protect them, but we need to have it up so that people can communicate. But we try to maximize, secure it as far as possible as we can. But the innovations that was brought, I think this was done also in coordination, I think, with OGCIO. We came with a SMS broadcast. I think that was very important. It was the first time we did it. And every 3 hours, we have been able to send an SMS to warn the people in the different islands. It is an island by island basis to really inform them about the threat of Cyclone Palm. And I think this was important, the fact that after the cyclone, we were thinking there will be a lot of casualties, but in fact, that was not the case. Thanks, I think, to all the people and the SMS that have been done both by Digicel and TVL. During the cyclone, we need to work. I think the TVL staff was working. I think we have the SMC, the server room, which was the heart of our network. We have a team working them to prevent that this get damaged. If this get damaged, the whole network will go down. So, and these people were very brave. I think we need to thank these people. I think they even have risked their life to protect the network. That it's worth mentioning. In addition, TVL has taken exceptional measures. We have our call center working on a 24-hour basis, not only to inform about the public, but also to coordinate among the internal team working. That was the two measures that we have taken during the cyclone. But after the cyclone, when we wake up, I think everyone was pretty was devastated, taking into consideration the damage that have been done. Communication, we had communication in Efate, only 2 sites were up, in Eluk and Watertex. We were able to provide communication in Port Vila. I think this has been very helpful, again, to the coordination work that has been done in Port Vila. After the cyclone, our action was twofold, really. It was one on how fast we can restore our network, and also how to make communication accessible. Because after the cyclone, it was clear that the people were not having the means to communicate. So for us on humanitarian ground, we provide free internet in key places in Port Vila, especially at TVL House, NDMO, at Post Office, and even we have the Vodafone Foundation, which went to Tana to provide free internet and free call, so that we are able to communicate with all the people. That was the immediate action that we take on humanitarian ground. For the restoration of our network, because of the extent of the damage, it was clear that only TVL team will not be able to restore the network so fast. So what we make an appeal to the Pacific friends, the island of the Pacific, through Peter, but the response was amazing. We got 22 people from the different countries, 50% of our resources. That was really, really helpful for TVL to restore our network. And our local partners, we can say that we have very good partnership with NDMO, OGCIO, and especially to UNELCO. We have daily coordination with UNELCO, where the power is being restored, so that we can put our site up. That was very important also. So within 3 weeks, we can say that 95% of our network was restored. That was the things. I'm not going in detail on the damage. I think we know everybody what are the damage that have been caused. But there's still some lesson to be learned. Also, we can say that we can be proud. We can be proud of our achievement. Everybody here can be proud. But still, there's some lesson to be learned. First of all, I think communication is also an essential part. Among food, water, shelter, communication is vital. We have seen this. We have experienced it during a calamity. We had communication in Efate, but we did have communication in the north and the south, because the link was both broken in the south and the north. And this has caused some gap, I can say, in the coordination between to make sure that the response, the aid, everything goes as fast as possible to the other islands. For me, this is a lesson that needs to be learned. Why is this gap? Why is the communication break? We could have a backup. I think here, it's not TVL, it's not only digital. I think it should be taken at national level. I'm addressing this to Fred. Every island, I think, should have a backup. I don't know what mean. It could be satellite, alternative technology, VSAT, but in case of great calamities, communication should be available in every island, as it has been in Port Vila. This is very important. We have done SMS warning, but I think in the future we can do an application on all disaster warning. An application that can warn people, I think warning, we don't have only cyclone, we have earthquake, we have volcanoes, all this, we can develop an application in this direction. But at the same time, we say we should not forget the traditional mean of warning people. I think sometimes it's very effective. People in the village, the responsible, the chief or the police who goes and warn people about the dangers. This should not be neglected. We need to ensure that we have a world-class calamity policy, a process and procedures. That's very important. We did have it, but we need to improve on it. One more lesson for TVL is in terms of spare capacity. After the cyclone, we did have a lack of spare capacities. If we had spares, the network would have been up much more rapidly than we have today. And more important again, I think coordination level. I think after the cyclone, it should not be taken, a competition. I think important that it's a disaster. This is a national level concern. Everyone has to put in hand so that the network and everything is done to restore the network as fast as possible. That thing also should be taken maybe at OGCIO or NDMO level to have the resources focused and logistic well distributed so that the network are restored in the most in the faster time as possible. I will end this my intervention here, but I will take this this opportunity to thank every stakeholders here who have been make it possible today. I just mention a few, all the Pacific operators who have supported us, the NDMO, OGCIO, UNELCO, and all the NGOs. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Thomas. Before me talk about when I work now, government in been making before lo cyclone bomb, during cyclone bomb, or after lo cyclone bomb. I think Monte Talam good afternoon, lo listeners play me, lo national radio with the Mall FM station. Thank you, Thomas. Lo you participate to lo Pacific ICT today. Today topic play me also moderator me talam me what ICTs me make lo cyclone bomb in terms of long term, short term warning and response. And when I'm listening now, you me lanem. Thank you too much, please tune in. I think first of all, before we talk about government role, me talamutsma se lopia lo government lo Vanuatu, especially minister responsible with me prime minister. We must tell them thank you too much. First of all, every stakeholders, every player lo industry, lo telecom, from operators to ISP to retailers, computer outlets, applications developer. Me also CIO, when we've been experienced cyclone, or after the cyclone, me must tell them say me will recognize some effort where you will everyone been playing before and also after the cyclone. Even today, me have some low computer shopia or still struggle to repair all computers, all users when we've been damaged. So thank you too much to everyone. I think we extend them to thank you especially lo to people operators TVL and digital. Me must tell them leave low installers and the day say talk with to the representative to the operator to like pintalam me support me free talk from I was there before, I was with them on behalf of the government and I was with them after, and every something will tell them me repeating the true. Again me repeating talk few talk to me SMS, how we cooperate, provide them free SMS, and also how we mobilize them on resource pool, even only bring them on resource on regional partners, port companies, only come only tremble restricted network within a couple of days. We please within less than 7 days, I think 85% of the full network together and fully restored. Of course, it got some issues low quality, but fully committed. So I think we want them say you may everyone start this afternoon, you should tell them some appreciation believe me, time the disaster more after you should give one people a clap all get. All listeners, small citizens of Vanuatu, of course, by want them survey one and now government have been making area blow ICT before, during, or after the cyclone. Lo side block government first some cyclone is striking you low Friday. So on Monday, especially local government network, Monday, 4 days before cyclone arrived, we will send one warning message equal every government users. The message was very clear that you protect your computers, you put them in a safe place, you unplug them after you make sure it is safe for raining in a wasema. Unfortunately, some manual in listen lol toktokia, only face some consequences. Having said that, me talam thank you full of in government computers we even roof me fly. The computers were safe and they were able to use them cyclone over. Second, something where me the most important one where government in Mekan, again, thank you to the operator. any SMS, free SMS, please send them. But maybe before we talk about SMS, say, Kafman have been sing out in one meeting, 2 or 3 days before cyclone come. We fly sing out in every industry, or especially to player, we fly talk about one now, but we fly make them before, one by me fly how now, but we fly respond after the cyclone. Kafman and team, which are a meeting and love is for me. One relaxation, we fly agree, let me send them SMS. So we've been sent them one letter, email, equal to the CEO, to respond, because we regulator, or say yes, we will send it. The same time, when the government in Mekem too, we will talk with the Meteo, you have a SMS, you have give him 160 characters, no, you know, have a copy on. But try and put warning, how much warning I consider 160 characters is quite challenging. But thank you too much, Meteo, we managed to find much, okay, put wind speed, direction, red alert, which province. Unless you will start to receive him. So, me fly set them up one email group where to member of the company part them. So as soon as warning come out, you may send them to receive him to send them SMS. Thank you too much for effort we do been making. That's some preparation we making before the cyclone. During the cyclone, okay, cyclone is starting me. So some level we start on Facebook, but if let's wonder say how come teach people climate change. At the strike of the midnight, when the cyclone high play, Mr. Hitim Potvila is still on Facebook and answering all your comments. So, the Assembly government was online. They got some officials will connect on the Kibim government network, especially NDMO, and online during the cyclone. Kasem cyclone even is, you may continue to use some all services, internet, VoIP, and everything. Of course, you will go off. You may tell them thank you, Lunalco. Some official online, you may try and best time Unelco come online, you will make a more official come back online. 2 days after the cyclone strike, you may tell them thank you, all key partners, emergency telecom clusters, we got some big organizations inside, we got Telecom Song Frontier, we got International Telecom Union, we got all Timplo Cisco, we got Timplo Ericsson, we got, sorry to much women, no name everyone, we got one team of international partners who are willing to work with the MUMI. So within first few days, when you make them, you deploy satellite phones, you call all mission we call, to make them face assessment. You may also give him some phone, TVL itself, to help coordinate them, to restore them network. So, and also because link you not me off, make them see you may fly one equipment as possible, like a test from Ivla by Vlaluka. One internet equipment we use satellite, and we provide them small Wi-Fi coverage. So you send them to Sola province, you call Lakatoro, with them Sanma, with them Saratamata, and also with them Tavia province. But make them say all administration, all provincial center, all is have a work and all is have a connect internet. And also now something where you may make them, you may try to support them TVL motitial because you may have a time here every cosplay me fully stressed. See poly full up, plane full up, or even plane in a land some days. So to fly make them one work protuvala, to let them coordinate them all own logistic protuvala, but time to need him support like Plocarama equipment, Clear them customs, or Plopukum ship, Plomivleco, Kafman them step in, Plotram help them to flap, and make them see you restore them network, you come quick time, you come online. Ting you restore them, provide them all satellite phone, or restore them network quick time, and from you may run, you may have a time, but disaster. Communication by me help plan the law coordinating more relief efforts. I think even now something where me have talk about where when I'm roll now government and been make them before, during, and also after the cyclone palm. Also, me want them talk about to say before even few years before cyclone palm me arrive, NTMO2 and me been set them up one SMS. Platform with them support the Australian government. To been help plan the all previous disasters. Last but not the least, we want to talk about one now you may been stop making the monitoring. You may use some plan the ICT network government with them network private operators monitor them all Folkano Yumi. So Folkano Ambram, Plotana, you make up of course cyclone maybe this step a little bit on network communication link, but Meteo monitor them real time for activities for volcanoes, and future plans. You make at one contract. In fact, one agreement between Vanuatu government and Japanese government. lo this year and towards this year, pa yumi using plant ICT lo monitor all activity lo earthquake level plus soil water in case of tsunami project it's progressing as you speak. Suppose if like Olendemo, if like look some Japanese engineers will start low or start designing project na you implement them. So so hopefully in the future pa you make more monitoring tools. Please have give him early warning signs. Please have inform citizens well in advance before disaster strike. Just few things, lessons to be learned. We support them talk lo TVL Chief Marketing Officer, lo site lo backup and redundancy. You may learn a lot of lesson. Thank you, lo Telstra. Telstra, my biggest telecom company in Australia, and we give him free 25 satellite phones. And all fire, and we come through lo effort, lo all fly mic, and one piece of volunteer. With time lo cyclone, and we go to Australia, and we tell him, say, Fred, what can I do for you? I said, talk to Telstra. Without any support, and we talk to Telstra, they give us 20 satellite phones. It can use telephone and internet. All satellite phone, internet employee, so we like plan, we like putum full-time role province. So next time disaster strike, you are Secretary General can pick up the satellite phone and communicate straight away. Yeah? One option, but then you might be so expensive. Meeting putum fiber cable, especially people fly land, some Santo Malagula. But in case where cyclone tamachem tower, at least you got underwater cable is taba. Having said that, government may not commit yet, but it's an option that potentially could help. You may need more redundancy, ceremonial infrastructure with the mall operators. Last but not the least, OGCIO with MTRR needs to lead an effort to develop a proper national disaster response, especially in the area of telecom and ICT. Yeah? We've learned a lot. I think it's about time while every idea is still fresh, you may put them together, plan next time strike, we know who to call, who to talk to. Although there wasn't that plan before Cyclone Palm, we really appreciate it. Thank you for the industry, but I think we need to document something. And national policy block government, and we talk about we have to have the plan in place. So, we must work them. Thank you too much, moderator.
Okay, thank you too much, Lotri, for the panelists. By me not taking further time, me open them up for any questions, lo audience. Suppose if you got any questions directed lo any lo trivala panelists to stop, you raise some hand by you and by play pass the mic.
The question is for the panel. Did the agencies that were responsible for the response find that they had all of the necessary regulatory and legal authorities that they needed to take the actions that they took? And if not, what changes, if any, would you make?
Are you speaking about the government agencies or NGOs? We, from our Digicel's perspective, didn't have a lot to do with the government agencies apart from FRED and the OGCIO as the cyclone unfolded. So my assumption is that they would have that. I suppose from my perspective as being private enterprise, there were times where we wanted to do certain activities early that we were usurped by the media. Now I know the medias are important, but it comes down to what Fred said at the end there. There needs to be a better disaster plan or action that involves the carriers from the beginning, so that in Vanuatu, because it's 1,000 kilometres from top to bottom and 83 islands, and most of our towers, both TVLs and ourselves, are on top of islands, on hills which are hard to get to. The only way of getting there is via an aircraft. And so one of the first things that we wanted to start doing, and TVL will be in the same situation, is doing rapid assessments of the damage of towers. And in some instances, there were areas where we couldn't use an aircraft or a or a helicopter because the media wanted to get on there. So it put us back and it didn't allow us to do the job. So I think in those instances, because it's a critical infrastructure, like electricity, like water, you know, it's a critical infrastructure. It needs to have priority in regards to actually getting things done. And yes, we're private, but we are providing a service to the community. And so we need to get out there and actually see what is the damage, assess the damage, and then be able to make plans to actually rectify the damage as quick as possible. And that did cause some slowness in actually bringing the network back up, but we worked around it by essentially hiring our own helicopters and just having them focus on those tasks and getting things like that done. So from our perspective, probably not. There would probably more that we could do and have powers to do, but that needs to be worked through with the government to actually understand, well, what do you need to do in those times of disaster to get things done appropriately? And I think TV, same sort of things, you know, we need to get out there and see it. It's hard to get to. Logistics are very difficult in the country. So these are things that we need help with to make sure that we can actually get things done.
I think Ron or Lloyd from DRR might want to add on any comments on the regulatory and legal action, but just from my experience, I think one of the comments or issues that came up was that should we provide that service for free to the relief agency? Who should provide that free service? And is it within our jurisdiction to provide that free service? You know, everybody was pressured, everyone to coordinate. Someone used to want to provide free service. Someone was like, hang on, don't provide free because, you know, I'm already, is my customer, I should take care of him. That's one. Secondly is, I have to thank TRR. Just one comment I think that the public should be aware of is that all the aid donors, relief agencies, especially World Food Program, one comment that they told me is that they actually requested radio license, frequency license, and they got it within 2 hours, less than 2 hours. That's a world record compared to any other countries that they went to when there's a disaster.
Yeah, thank you, Fred. Thank you for that feedback there. We didn't know that. So we had our regulatory actions were to follow due process but speed it up. So in other words, you can't cut out the vital reference point of knowing which spectrum is available, because that's critical. But from a bureaucratic point of view, we just proceeded as quickly as possible, gave it top priority. I thank my staff, particularly Louise's area and her team, for really giving full attention. And Louise, I think that's a wonderful thing to hear, that we knew we were turning them over in less than 2 hours in some cases, but to hear, Fred, that's a world record is magnificent. But I also think one of the keys was the leading role that you took, so that in advance of the cyclone hitting, the 2 or 3 days out, as you said, you took the initiative and you called on me and the other operators to see, or the operators I should say, to see how we all felt. Now, if you think of the email time frame that you sent that to me, I believe we had an answer within under an hour. Maybe that's a world record too. So that's a big thanks to Digicel and TVL as well. We supported, but they came in immediately. So I think there were some amazing traits and efforts that really need to be documented, as you said, Fred, so that it's there and retained for future. And as my dear wife said here, this isn't just a cyclone, this is any emergency, the earthquake, the whatever that we're getting. So I think we need to move on that. But in reality, there aren't too many regulatory barriers. And I'm pleased to hear that we weren't holding you up, operators. I'm pleased to hear that we made the spectrum available to outside groups, aid groups coming in. And that's probably the key. And that's part of, again, the regulatory arrangement that's in Vanuatu. It facilitates rather than tries to be any form of bureaucracy.
Thank you, Ron. We'll get another question from the back.
Thank you. It's not probably it's not a question, just a comment. After the cyclone, one thing I noticed in Vila was there was no power. And because there was no power, I don't think anybody got connected. What I'm trying to say here is that I see Digicel and TVL there, but I don't see anybody from radio. Most of us are very dependent on radio because it runs on battery. And in order to get any information, the radio was down for quite some time. Any plans that in the event that the cyclone did hit, maybe we should have some form of radio, because radio can reach a lot of people. Yeah, just a comment here. Also, I work for USP, and when the cyclone hit, USP has its own network, and the northern part of the country was offline, both Digicel and TVL. We were fortunate for Malakula, our USP netlink was up, and so it was used as means of communicating to those in Port Vila. We also plan to set up our network in the different provinces as well. So in the event that we need to work together, in the event of a disaster, I mean, USP has its own network, we can share. I mean, I'm saying this, but the higher level talks will have to take place for that to happen. But yeah, just a comment with regards to no radio after the cyclone.
I happen to be in the same ministry that also look after broadcasting. However, I do not directly involve with all the policies of the broadcasting industry. Make a few comments. I don't know whether if the GM of UPDC is around, but we have limited radio coverage before the cyclone. After the cyclone, with external assistance, we've managed to restore back the original network with improved coverage. How that happens to be, it's outside my jurisdiction, but definitely radio is, especially FM radio, because AM radio, it's slowly fading out. Most people now use their mobile phones, and it has FM station. So through VPTC, we need to put more effort on improving coverage for FM stations. I do take note of your comment. This is an area that the government needs to seriously look into. I know that there's a legislation going to Parliament to look at further improvement on the structure and the operations of VPTC and fully strengthen the operations of VPTC. That's my only comment. Thank you.
I won't make a comment on radio, but your comment on the USP environment, I think is a valid one. And again, my colleague here from TVL mentioned it during his little dissertation in regards to having alternate paths or alternative mechanisms to actually communicate in case of a disaster. I think, as it was mentioned this morning and has been in the press, that Vanuatu can be impacted by many disasters in many ways. So it also then again confirms what Fred said about having a more solid disaster plan for communications and probably critical infrastructure, and what alternative mechanisms can we look at to put in place. Now, the biggest problem there is that it's going to cost money, you know, and services can cost money. However, if they're put in places like USP, a hospital, and places like that, then there can be some sharing of that infrastructure cost. It may be able to be used in some other way for the community or something like that, or it may be, there may be some way of looking at how you apportion the cost to actually have that infrastructure in place, or some way to actually do that. If there is a disaster, then you can actually, take that on and say, we're now using it for disaster purposes, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But I think that requires a greater discussion and looking at what can be done. Because I think this was actually seen is that there are in many places single points of failure in our network, in the government network, and in TVL's network that we all need to look at, and from the lessons that we've experienced here in the past period about what we can do to improve. And Fred's right, if Interchange do actually get the cable up to Luganville, then we've got one mechanism that's in place there. But that could take time to actually do that. And there are other ways, and I know there's a gentleman from Pacific that was here at the moment, and there are those ways of doing it and other things. But it needs to be coordinated and an appropriate strategy put in place, and the funding and the costing and everything like that looked at to see whether it's appropriate or not. And it all comes down to the fact that is the cost of not doing it more than the cost of doing it? Okay, and if that is the case, then the argument is a no-brainer in many ways.
Thank you, Thomas Pratt, for that intervention, as well as Fred. I'll take any last questions if there's any burning questions from the audience. Okay, it seems as there's none. However, if you do have any further questions that you would like answers to, do feel approach this panelist. There's the TVL booth at the back, OGCIO and Digicel, to get more information on this. I think Fred got one comment.
Sorry, me take mat funded Mr. Law States. Anyways, sorry, me just play interest play me everyone. We start the afternoon with them. Everyone with the listen to radio. You may been supply of 100 satellite phones. Me lupiaf government one talam thank you lo for organization. You got World Food Program. Telecom Sans Frontier or Telecom Without Borders. You got Telstra also me talam. But also me forgot what talam say ITU International Telecommunication where sama may represent them, only send them 40 phones. Only no send them no more, only send them one specialist plo kata ikamo them all phone ya plo in yumi how plo usuma. Also maybe me take mo puchnya plo talam thank you lo piaf plo I think one lo operator ya me Photophone Foundation. Photophone Foundation too me help me plo set up one temporary mobile coverage lo tana. I think so. I think what funded plo name all for organization only been very generous. Plo give him all satellite phone plo use lo time plo disaster. Thank you.
Thank you, Thomas Fred. Having said all these interesting discussions, I think takeaway play me. Also, mo palan lo TVL hemi mention him about partnerships. Lo time plo natural disasters. So hemi very critical, especially plo time me. Staff lo communicate with the population outside. Hemikut, I know we all competitors here, but our people are important and our partnerships in serving them, providing them with information. Hemi vital, lo ensure say me front me come out lo disaster, stronger people, and we have proved that today with a successful first day. Hemi finish. So me ask. So boss, you have give one hand, all panelists, before you make all last presentation by me today. Okay, thank you Thomas. Lo last session for the day. Now we come lo one presentation. We bahas we come lo TRR. So me ask him Chef. Suppose hemi save come up. Lo hemi ki one update. Lo universal access program lo imi. with them program lo school connectivity. You missed up haram plante about this program, and Chef he missed up today. Lo he me give him one update, and you listen in. Suppose you got any questions lo envelope presentation to Chef. Please you feel free. Lo put up hand for you. Lo mi fly save pass mic. Thank you too much, Chef.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Me start making presentation here on behalf of UAP project manager, Mr. Alma Wenzi. Unfortunately, Mr. Lo Santo. I also take part of ICT Day Lo Santo. So me giving presentation here. Me will give him one update no more. Lo one of the government's universal access program. Where we will connect them with the schools, distribute them with the tablets, siguro with the schools, and connect them internet cafe, lo remote areas, lo Vanuatu. Me one very brief update. So if you want to get full details, please feel free to log on lo website lo TRR. You have to take more information inside them. Outline blow presentation blow afternoon. I basically got 5 points. No, me want them give him, want them serum. Also we stop and up. I may go through first time law. Want to give him one small brief background to universal access policy, block government, and then provide them one scope, law implementation, law universal access policy, and then. By you may look workplace current status for UAP LM at this point in time. And then some thinking move forward from this point onward. And then when I'm now outcome UAP where you want them achieve him after 2018 where we target date universal access policy. So what I'm by me go through me want to give him a small background overview of universal access policy government policy block government. Law 2007 he got one policy statement where me entitled telecommunications policy statement law 102 government overview of policy. I mean basically give him government commitment. Let me foster him use or development law ICT. What them use for ICT, all communities, remote parts for Vanuatu, especially for current benefit, for all potential where ICT is have a premium. So telecommunication policy statement, I mean basically give him main focus na lo telecommunication network, what them all aspects for development lo side lo ICT. So based law principle law policy now universal access policy may come about where Council law ministers may approve law number 7 November 2013. And I implement may stop also may put them law screen and up. Basically main objective plan may law reach him last milestone where me extend him telecommunication service. You go unsafe with them underserved areas, lo Vanuatu. You got full upstreams for universal access, but key initiative for policy, I mean, to do with them telecommunications. Major objective for policy, I mean, achieve 98% of population coverage by 1st January 2018. What MMR or services where we include inside law service for telecommunication. We got voice service where you must enjoy I mean mobile. And then you got narrowband data services where we include them text services. And then lastly I mean broadband services where I mean to do them internet. And policy I mean state them say download speed of at least 21 Mbps and upload for 12 megabytes per second. So si look, essentially, really, minim say by 2018, policy through this policy or the services should be available, primary, secondary, tertiary institutions or schools, vocational training facilities, as well as the childhood education facilities. And we also extending all health facilities, including the hospitals, health centers, dispensaries, what the public offices. What ikat last point when we put the screen on top of me, ikat one UAP fund, according to policy block of money, ikat one trust fund where we set up by minister responsible, where at the moment I'm prime minister. Trust fund I'm administered by TRR, I'm also trustee, lo UAP fund. And currently, in section inside lo trust fund I'm from OSAID through lo GFG or Governance for Growth and TRR. So utilization of UAP fund, basically go towards public internet cafes, school connectivity, tablets for school programs, and then also improve access to telecommunication service. Got locations where only underserved, only no served yet. According to current existing services, we stop. Give him small thinking no more, scope, UAP implementation, all areas. We got 25 sites, everyone. Around Vanuatu, we only identify them, where me underserved, or not being served through all telecommunication services. So, pa isa look on top of screen, all names, all list up, table, list up, left side, me, where me right side, you. We got 25 sites, everyone. And all got 25 sites, only second level, stop, map. Or kata red dots way stop lo map, indicate mo kata areas lo country where ikat all kata villages or kata people only live them, but only no kata access lo voice communication. So all areas yan na UAP, scope lo UAP roll out them. All areas lo underserved areas or unserved areas. You may look small or workplace you missed today. Antalo universal access policy, ikat one approach, holy golem play or pay approach. Currently, also me talem antalo this approach, mivla or TRR maybe in kat various meetings, consultations with the industry, or kat alistablo bisa ikat Digicel, TVL, Telsat, with the molnarvla service providers. Only been got numerous consultations with them TRR, and only come up with them all thinking roll out universal access policy in rural areas. Lo information play minimum about play or pay approach. Me expand them small. Play or we only decide only operate mo follow look at them all ways where me approachable achieving policy objectives one to government. And then it'll pay approach. So you think say you know sabe roll out policy block government, then by cut one pay or one fee whereby you pay me come inside lo trust fund we also Mr. Prevail first time, and that fund by me help lo implement them policy block government throughout lo rural areas lo country. With them player, also me must tell them integrate them this time. With them all player or pay approach. All kata players, most of players only look say, me one opportunity, you not so as one pattern all kata, and with them combine approach where so see me combine them every players where indicate say pali contribute lo UAP policy, maybe lo hand plan, by me contribute lo achieve all kata everyone only contribute lo achieve 96% where me main goal lo universal access policy, and who knows maybe by me take him. You may achieve him even more than 98%, where you start also called universal access. And TRR may also obtain him commitment with them support law industry, all service providers, in order to achieving one maximum possible effective coverage lo kata unsafe areas we been identify first time. We got 25 areas everyone. And TRR may look flexibility plo kata service providers may also want excellent outcome. Whereby we provide a more flexible, more effective rollout to all players. To achieve 98% of population coverage, where we call UAB. TRR may also determine to most practical baseline where we minimum speed, where we appropriate law context more relevant law case Vanuatu. After where we got consultation with them all the industries. Universal access policy, we tell them 21 Mbps download with them 12 at least 12 Mbps upload. According to consultation where TRR may make them with them industry, only come to determine a minimum speed where it must be produced meeting UAP speed requirement. We base law 2 Mbps download and 1 Mbps upload. And then we baseline lo start off with them. So I mean now lo site lo play and pay approach. Lo site lo all programs lo ICT. All the programs I deal mainly with them all the schools. Before rolling out lo all programs or start initiation lo program lo start off. Ibin cut one provincial awareness where it been taking place. TRR taken. Lo increase awareness no mo lo use lo ICT mo telecommunications mo benefits play mi golol kada consumer with them market through lo UAB programs we pa give him. So CRAN application form once where awareness been taking place, you got the CRAN application form only develop them and then only distribute them. Lo manage May kukasem July of last year. We will have been receiving one very overwhelming response where we will have received over 320 applications in all. Block at 3 programs. 320 applications. And we can integrating one emerging demand. Lo use more knowledge flow ICT round lo areas lo Vanuatu. Lo handle selection block at successful schools. You got 15 where you engage lo side lo computer lab. And you got 7 where you receiving all the tablets. And then you got 3 where only been selected lo that connection lo internet through lo rural community or business blog or leading team lo expand them business blog use internet. After all selections, you got one survey, web site survey taking place. Really, make them all reality checks no with them when I start application, when I start really low ground. And also site visits, determine them real needs we stop. We only been selected when I only need to meet him, survey cut, meet him requirement UAP. And then you got procurement goods and services where the RRME contact them through tenders. You got tenders where the RRME develop them. You got 12 for everyone. And all the tenders and we go towards all ICT equipment and all the accessories. And we also include power systems, including solar systems, all the schools. At this point in time, all the tenders only been received and only been finalized. All contracts only been developed. Outlaw 12 contracts, you got 11 so far. Well, been finalized them. You got one stop only conclude them. Finish them work tender, then work himself start. So everyone here. Take away key lesson blow ICT program blow schools is that focus more on youth, reaching more community through all schools play me low country. Lo site lo reporting one requirement until lo universal access policy lo must report lo minister responsible where prime minister after every 6 months. So far the RRM been provide them 2 in confidence report in confidence. Prime Minister, where Minister responsible for UAB, more TRR. TRR, also at the same time, develop 2 public reports where by me continue blo provide them blo update them kata stakeholders play me lo side lo awareness lo implementation blo government's UAP. And maybe just one summary blo when me go through them blo first place. Ikata side lo computer lab, more internet community centers. I got 15 schools have run. Only been selected. And all schools were only been selected for receiving more tablets. I got 7. And internet cafe. Business law rural communities play me. I got 3 we only been selected more. So next steps forward from now on, lo site lo implementation, internet lo play or pay approach. Pag again, emi lo finalize some more plans we stop na ya. And then involve them ogata lo site lo undertaking agreements, contractual agreements. And then you got rollout lo got new sites, with them upgrade lo existing sites. You got some sites we stop we got service providers, only provide them lo deployment plans lo got. Loli upgrade mo kata lo next level blo service where only thing blo provide them lo areas play me or some you got some areas blo upgrade them lo 3Gs whereby me later on me enable them broadband services. Lo site lo kata schools from this point on as soon as all kata contracts all is signed. People role we stop now and implement some kata contracts ya. And after the contracts all is signed, work kami service start lo kata schools. One people co-part play kami involve mo kata contractors lo schools. But you look presence lo kata lo full up schools welcome. Ploli start lo perform implementation task where start lo power installation, configuration lo computers and configuration blow computers, and at the same time, we blow all the tablets will distribute mo kata. From 10, by me sabi one indicative time frame or timeline blow what time by work me complete, and also blow UAP team antalo TRR by me carry out implementation plan blow M&E. Lastly, when I'm expectations, UAP I'm still look forward to lo and blow period lo UAP where 2018 January 1st. Main expectation blame me by January 1st 2018 98% lo population lo Vanuatu me cut coverage lo site lo voice narrowband broadband lo site lo telecommunication service. And also same time me look improve use lo ICT lo country access lo telecommunication services 98% lo Vanuatu population also cut improve services lo telecom. At the same time, you must have expected lo look number ikat increase number of schools while connect through lo broadband internet, increase use lo ICT lo education. Also mi stop talem lo one lo kata slides finish major area lo focus lo achieving target ya emi through lo education with them health facilities, policy offices, public offices with them general public. Lo and them small presentation lo this afternoon. Me just want them to take this opportunity. Lo me acknowledge them continuous support. Lo kata ko UAP implementation partners. Only present lo this afternoon. We got OSAID through the office lo GFG. And then Vanuatu government through the office lo Chief Information Officer. And also Ministry of Education. And me no forget them. All critical stakeholders where all service providers play me without where very important lo this project. All the presence lo service providers will stop today. Digital, Telecom Vanuatu, where them acknowledge them contributions play lo past kasam this time. And TRR I look forward lo continue lo work close with them. You will run with them government. Lo you continue lo fulfill him. Target lo this policy universal access policy where may policy blo government. Blo further information lo wana may pin present them lo this afternoon or blo you want them keep update with them progress blo implementation. Please you feel free blo log on lo website lo TRR. Please have receiving more update information or some detailed information lo wana may present them lo this afternoon. What am thank you Thomas. Everyone lo attention by you everyone lo this afternoon. Thank you.
Okay, thank you Thomas Chef. Lo one very insightful information. Lo one Mr. Happen. Lo Yumia Chief Universal Access Policy Block of Man. Okay, by me open small time. You make at about 14 minutes stop. According law official program me. Suppose anyone got any specific questions, lo presentation blo Fred, sorry, blo Chef, pa me take questions. Me look one hand, lo Shak from Pacific.
Yes, thank you. Just wanted to double check the objectives on the first page for the UAP. You're mentioning a 21 Mbps down and 12 up. And at some point during the presentation, I think it was in Bislama, so I didn't really follow, but you mentioned 2 down and 1 up, I believe. Can you explain the discrepancy and what's the actual objective?
Thank you. I think, thank you, my senior colleague officer is here with me. He could actually hat on that, and the regulator. We've had a consultation with the industry, and we've decided on a baseline to start off with. And I think to help us get the services, the policy started. We came up with a baseline that's more appropriate in 1 or 2 contexts. And that's why we came up with the 2 Mbps download and the 1 Mbps upload to start off with as a baseline. That's why we...
Is it to get started now and then in 20...
That's right.
You need to be at the 2112?
Yes.
Okay.
It's a minimum requirement to UAP requirement to start off with.
Okay, thank you, Shaklo. This was a question. Got any other questions regarding universal access program or school connectivity program from anyone else? Yes, Shak.
And just also when you mentioned voice, narrowband SMS and broadband, what's the requirement around voice? Can it be voice over IP or does it have to be voice? How do you define voice in this context?
We'll just talk across the table. The voice bit is as you'd expect, but with the government's policy, universal access policy, it required us to take a lead role and set quality of service standards. So that's where you're going to find out what voice means. So for example, it was mentioned that the quality of service was down a bit as the networks were coming back up. So there were dropouts, fade outs, break up, hard to hear sometimes, etc. That quality of service standard will cover the voice aspects. So voice is literally voice, as is commonly known. No, it's right. Irrespective, you see what you do. Spot on. It is always irrespective of service non-independent. Okay. So absolutely, correct.
Will the quality of service standards in the UAP include availability and outage times percentages?
Where's Louise? I should make her answer this. Yes, there she is. Louise, how would you like to answer that question? I can do it. She didn't hear it. Okay. We have a set of parameters that we want to include in our quality of service. Regulation, actually, so it's not a standard. It will be mandatory. We have a consultant engaged to commence that work very, very soon. And we will consult with industry because you've got to find out, again, what's feasible. We know what we want. Then you look at what's feasible. If you're looking at the 21 and 12 and the outcome of a 2 and 1 is it's on our website. You'll see it's our determination of it. It's a period where you have to eventually hit the mark, but you can build up to it. And it's probably going to be a similar approach, I would suggest, in that sense, John. But we're really about to start our laying out of exactly what we want. But if you want to give us some suggestions, we'd be quite happy to take them on board.
Thank you, Thomas, Lo intervention. Any other questions? Lo presentation with TRR Hemi Mekem about school connectivity programs. Okay, I think you know any questions. By suppose you have join me, play me Kimwan Han lo chef lo kutula presentation. Okay, thank you Thomas. I think presentation now. Hemi bring me ikam lo end. Lo one very informative and exciting day number 1 today. Pakakeni mitalam thank you, lol sponsors and partners play me, Australian government, TRR, VTO, Vanuatu Tourism Office, USP, Telecom Vanuatu Limited, Ticicel, Pacific Broadband Satellite, Topticom, Inomial, Computer World Interchange, CNS Breadbank, Vanuatu National Provident Fund, Ahitec, OneTalk, Global Pacific Telecom, SPIM, Mobi Money, Alpha Vanuatu, and Shaba Image. Suppose you have in one hand, lo all sponsors, lo ICT Day 2015, lo you mean. Okay, thank you, Thomas. Lo support lo all people and also most importantly, thank you, Thomas. Lo you everyone who if have come today, take part, listening, look all display, all exhibition, we have stop behind, and you may look forward. Lo look you everyone pakaken. Lo one day tomorrow. Just before we wrap up.